You should already have it if you fill up the attendance link regularly. If you don't, pull it down as quickly as you can because you're going to jump right in. The Midwest Instruction and Computing Symposium, that cybersecurity competition, still collecting signups for that. That is in Fargo, North Dakota, April 5th through 6th. It's an attack and defense competition, and we're going to be putting together maybe multiple teams of 10 with OffSec. I know they're closing signups like this week. We may or may not do that depending on how many signups we get. So sign up as soon as possible if you're interested. And then Mock 6 is March 16th to the 17th. That's going to be a 2-day mock. First day is going to be 4 to 8 p.m. like usual. And then we're going to do 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the following Sunday. There's going to be some physical hardware. We should have at least one ESXi server for each team. And depending on sign-up numbers, we're probably going to put all like the non-main CCDC team members, like everyone else who signs up, probably going to put all on one big team. That way, you guys can actually experience that physical hardware if you don't have to worry about like rationing that out as much. And then also, just more people means hopefully you'll do better too. It'll be more fun. Feel free to show up just the first day if you want to. Obviously, what we're trying to do with this last mock is sort of simulate the regional competition as much as possible. That's going to be really helpful for the main CCDC team. If it's too much of a slog for you guys, I don't mind if you only come the first day. But if you're on the main CCDC team, you have to come every day. So yeah, sign link is there. It's also in Slack. I'll sign up. We're going to get right into the Palo stuff. So if you look in Slack, I posted a link to the lab portion. Looks like this. Basically, I laid out the environment. We have a Debian system. We're running Apache if you want to allow people to access and port 80. We also are running a MySQL server, and we want people to be able to access port 3306. That MySQL server has some personal information on it. It has some social security numbers that we don't want bad guys getting access to. We're gonna like put in some measures to defend against that later on. Then we'll also have an FTP server on port 21. Then we have a Windows 2008 server that's just running SMB on port 445. We'll try exploiting that with Eternal Blue and show how we can sort of block access to SMB v1, and then also how we can implement security profiles to actually detect an Eternal Blue exploit and then cut it off in the middle before we can actually do anything. Then we have our Kali 10.0.1.100. That's our attacker box. That's going to be the one that's trying to exploit all our systems. And we'll test out how our firewall rules work using that system, as well as our security profiles. So, first things first, let's log into the Palo. If you want to open up Win 2008, that's the system we'll be using to administer the Palo. Password on bang is password. While we wait for this to get started. I'm going to go to 192.168.1.2. That's the management interface for the Palo. Typically, you're going to go to just .1, but I didn't bother to set up management profiles for the interfaces, so I'm just going to use this instead. I don't know, I couldn't interact with that. Oh, here we go. Now we got something. Okay, backing it. So what's that stuff? Let's see if I can actually put it up. So first thing we want to do, basically to get security profiles to actually work properly, you need to download and install some like threat packages, like antivirus definitions and basically like signatures for different exploits. We don't want to do this right away because later on we're going to basically switch to a default block setup, in which case our update traffic isn't going to be able to go out. So we want to get this done first thing. So you're going to go over to the device tab up at the top, and then on the left you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you'll see dynamic updates right there. And you'll hit check now. You probably have to authenticate with the Capital Portal first if you haven't yet. Once you've got that done, you'll see there's basically a big tab here called Applications and Threats. This is all their threat definition updates that they'll push out over like basically every week. You want to download the one way at the bottom because that's the most recent one. It's not the one at the top, it's the way at the bottom. So you want to hit download on that right away. And this will take a little bit of time. For some reason, that last 1% takes like 2 minutes. When you need to check progress, if you check progress, check now down at the bottom here, the little white arrows in the circle. Yeah, while we're waiting for that, I'll show you something interesting. So last time we talked about Palo, we talked about the way it uses layer 7 filtering. So I could look into the actual application layer of the protocol to see like this traffic is HTTP traffic versus this traffic is just normal TCP connection over port 80. So the way Palo does that is it has a bunch of predefined applications. They're not always super like intuitively named. So say if you want to allow HTTP traffic through, if you might not necessarily know what that is. If you try to like search for HTTP in the little application thing, it's not going to come up. So they have this thing called Applipedia, which is sort of like a lookup guide for applications. So go to applipedia.paloaltonetworks.com. You have this nice little search bar here, so you can look up HTTP. And I'll show you all of the applications that work over HTTP. So the one, if you're actually looking for like port 80 web traffic, it's called web browsing. You can also look up things based on port. Port doesn't help as much. But if you look up just like HTTP, or if you want to look up like Samba or SMB for Windows, if you look at SMB, you see it's called MSDS SMB. So if you're ever like confused about like what an actual application is called, this is a good resource to use to actually look that stuff up. Search back here, see that's finally done downloading, and then you want to click install right away. And just hit continue installation. This part's usually a little bit faster. And that's not. This one got this thing. So you see, well, like this takes like quite a bit of time actually, or not like it's not a huge amount of time, but it's like if you're in a competition setting, it's not something you want to be moving around on. So while this is going on, you can actually hit close here, and that'll keep running in the background. And then if you wanted to like jump over to your policies and then start creating firewall rules for your Palo, you can do that like right now. You won't be able to commit them until the actual like installation part is done, but you can queue it up so that it'll commit right afterwards. Probably won't do that right here. And then there's this little tab down here called tasks, which you can look at as well. I'll pull up this screen here. You can see all your like pending commits and things like that. There we go. So when that finally finishes, you hit check now again. And this time you should get antivirus definitions. So you get signatures for different types of malware. That'll show up here. Once again, you want to download the one right at the bottom. I'm pretty sure this part's quite a bit faster. Actually, you don't have to actually sit and watch this. We're not doing anything here afterwards. So let's jump over to policies. And basically, I'm going to run you through some basic firewall stuff. In the lab, it's got a listing out of all of the like different applications we want to allow to different systems. So I'll run you through this. I'm also going to touch on like some common mistakes you can make while working with the Palo Alto firewall. So there's a lot of there's minor things you can do that can actually leave like open little holes for red team to get through. When Mike and I were testing this out a couple weeks ago, we found a lot of small mistakes you can make, which allow red team another method of access. So first thing you want to do, typically when you get in, you're either going to have this inner zone default rule right here. This one here is either going to be set to a default allow policy, scroll over to the right, or you'll have another rule just way at the top that says allow all from any zone to any zone. In this case, it's set on the inner zone default, so we're going to slide over to the left here. I'll just click on the rule. And under actions, we're going to set the action to drop. Okay. So now if we commit this, then no traffic can pass either way through the firewall. We're not going to do that right away because we don't want to like just cut off traffic right away. We want to actually insert some rules before we do that. You might have to switch between tabs here just to like be able to add rules. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our inbound rules for Debian. So I'll do Debian inbound. And then under the source tab, since this is inbound, your source zone is going to be your untrusted zone. And then your destination zone is going to be your trusted zone. And then under destination address, this part's a little bit tricky. So Palo does NAT sort of a little bit more, it does it differently than like Juniper or like Cisco does it. So the Palo will actually evaluate the firewall rules before it actually does the NAT translation. So when a packet comes into the firewall on its ingress interface, so if something hits it on the external interface, if you have a rule defined based on like internal IP address, it's going to see like, hey, this packet's coming to 10.01.10. This rule I have is for 192.168.1.10. That doesn't match, so I'm just going to like not use this rule. This rule's not going to trigger at all. So you have to be very careful to actually be mindful of the actual NAT situation you have. So your destination address here is going to be 10.0.1.10. It's not going to be the 192 address because this packet is coming into your external interface, so it's still that external IP address. Next, we're going to head over to the application tab. And then here we're going to do web browsing to allow to port 80 or to the Apache web server. We're also going to add in MySQL, as well as FTP. So if we go into the service URL category, so basically if we're dealing with like web traffic, we can actually filter down based on the URLs people are trying to go to. Typically, it's not going to be super useful for inbound rules because you don't really want to do URL filtering on your own stuff. You want to be doing URL filtering on like client requests going outbound. So we're not going to mess with URL filtering at all. But over under service, there's basically two main things you can select under service. So service in Palo is basically analogous to port. So the application is defined based on like the actual application layer protocol, but then the service defines which port you're allowing that traffic to come in and out of. By default, it's going to be set to application default, so it's going to be like whatever the usual port is. So for HTTP traffic, it's going to be port 80. For FTP traffic, it'll be port 21. You can also select any under here, which will block it, which will like match traffic using that application on any port. So if we select any here, let's go under actions and set allow, which we did. What that's going to do is it's going to allow traffic to HTTP on any port, to MySQL on any port, to FTP on any port. Now, typically that's not going to be something you want to do. But I'll show you what that looks like when you actually do it by accident. Like that here. Jump over to the Kali system. Root password one down. Okay. So here we begin like curl 10.0.1.10. And we get back the like default Apache index.html. But we can also curl that same thing on port 8000. It'll give us the same stuff back. I set up Apache to actually listen on those two different ports, but we don't actually want traffic going to port 8000. So you can imagine if red team got onto the actual system, they could set up like a listening, like a listener shell, that works over HTTP traffic, and then they could still communicate to the system using that port 8000 using legitimate HTTP traffic, so the Palo wouldn't actually like pitch that. So that's like one of those subtle ways you can actually leave holes open for yourself in the firewall. So let's jump back here and let's fix that. So we click on Debian inbound. We'll go to the service URL category, and we're going to change this back to end. Or no, not it, application default. Okay. We'll commit that. Now, if we try to curl on port 8000, we won't get anything back, which is what we want. Okay, so now let's do the Windows one. We'll add a new rule. We'll call it Win 2008 inbound. We'll do the same sort of thing. Do untrust. Trust. And again, the destination address is going to be that external IP of the Windows system. On that 0.1.20. And under application, I'm going to select MSDS-SMB. Under service URL category, we'll leave that as application default. And we'll leave the action as allow. So hit OK with that. And we'll commit. Okay. So this brings up another cool thing that Palo has. Because it can actually inspect at that like application layer, it can actually differentiate between different versions of SMB. So one of the problems running, say, you have like a scored SMB share on Windows 2008. One of the bad things about that is that it's vulnerable to eternal boot, because that's like an exploit on SMB version 1. So if we jump back to the Kali, run MSF console. And then we're going to use exploit. Windows SMB MS17 underscore 010 underscore eternal blue. And we'll set payload. Set the payload to Windows x64 interpreter reverse HTTP. And we set our host. .10.0.1.20. And we'll set L host 10.0.1.100. Oops. We'll set L port to 443. That'll come in handy later on. and then we'll just export. There we go. So we'll go through the exploit system and then we'll go to shellback. This might take a little bit, so I'm going to jump back to the Palo quick, and we'll modify this rule for the Windows 11 inbound to only allow SMB versions 2 and 3, and not allow SMB version 1. So you'll still be able to use like file shares, but you won't actually have to worry about internal boot. So we'll go over to the application, and we'll click here. We'll delete this one, and we'll add in 3 new rules. So there's MS, DS, SMB-base. So this is like the base SMB rule. You have to include this if you're doing like specific versions. Then we're also going to add MS, DS, SMB, V2, and V3. Hit OK. Jump back here. Hopefully this is done, but it's not. Oh, failed. Well, it's able to actually try the exploit at least. You might have better luck than I do because I think I was doing this multiple times beforehand, which might make it not work as well. So I'll exit that, and then I'm going to commit this. That's good. So I'll commit this. Okay. So that's done. If we try to exploit here again, we'll try to connect, and then it'll fail right away because it can't connect to the SMB V2. And just hang there like that. So I'll quit out of that quick. And then we're actually going to want to undo that change we just did because later on we're going to do some stuff with screen profiles, so we don't want to actually be able to like detect that internal blue attack and catch it in transit. And we can't do that if we're blocking SMB1. So we'll just delete all these and add back in the MS, DS, SMB. Commit that again. I'm just going to close this because I want to go straight into doing outbound rules. So we'll do outbound rules. And then here our source is going to be trust. And our destination will be untrust. We're going to leave our destination address to be any because we're going to allow traffic to anything on the internet. And then under application, We're going to allow out web browsing. SSL, which is basically HTTPS, but for like specific non-popular sites. So if you want to add Google here, we can do that as well. We'll look up Google here. And should go for just do Google base. And we also need to allow out DNS. Under service URL category, we'll leave that as application default. And then action will do allow. So basically the rule of thumb for your service, you always want to do application default for allow rules, and you want to always do service of any for deny rules. You imagine if you're allowing stuff in, you only want it to be allowed in on a specific port, or if you're allowing stuff out, or if you're blocking stuff, you want to block out everything on any port, not just the application default port. I just realized we don't actually have an example of blocking, but it's always good to do a whitelist instead of blacklist. So we will commit this. Yeah.
Is that the bottom of your zone rule? Is that block all?
Yeah, it's block already.
Now, touching about that, the CCDC environment, you block all the way to the
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that you're not, you're from the bees, if you allow those per like IP device that you're getting out there, the box, and then you can block rules for that block,
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So yeah, what you're just talking about. So you could create a unselect. That's really wrong. So if you're like applications, so say you're like creating rules as you go along. One good thing to do would be to do like your block all down the bottom. We'll set source zone to untrust, destination zone to trust. And in order to this destination address, you would initially set this to like, say just one IP address, so maybe 10.0.1.10. And then under application, you leave that as any. And so your service URL category, you want to set this to any, not application default. Otherwise, you allow like different application, any application that's not on its default port, which is a really weird thing to do by default, which you don't want. And our actions will do deny or drop. So you do that to like start with, say, you just finished your Debian inbound rule, you create this block all rule down at the bottom. And then after you had done your Windows 2008 inbound rule, you edit this rule. Go under destination. And you add another IP address here. 10.0.1.20. Like that, and then you hit OK. And then you can commit that along with like each system that you create rules for. So like basically, yeah, the good thing about doing it this way is that you can sort of block access to systems you've created firewall rules for already. And then it will also allow you to utilize this inter-zone default rule. You can leave that as a pass and then set up a security profile group. So it'll actually like detect exploits and like non-exploit connections over like stuff that's not being covered yet with firewall rules, which is really nice. The alternative to doing it this way is to write a script which we have documentation for in the training folder, which will generate all these rules really, really quickly, and we can just dump them all into the Palo right away. You don't have to worry about like fiddling around with all these rules in the web view. But that requires you to actually have like SSH access to the actual Palo itself, or like direct console access, which you might not have necessarily. So this is a good alternative here. So I think I can. Yeah, I'm just if you want to test stuff, you can check to see if you still have internet access. So that's good. So at this point, we've got all our firewall rules working. So now we can look at our security profiles. So if you go under the Objects tab up at the top, on the right side here, there's a bunch of different things. We're mostly going to be concerned about the security profiles part here, and under custom objects, the data patterns. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to basically compile a grouping of security profiles that we're going to apply to every firewall rule. That'll do additional inspection on the traffic that look for different signatures for exploits or like malware. So first we're going to go to data patterns under custom objects, like add under here. I'm going to call this ssn/cc or underscore cc. Add. I want to change the pattern type from file properties to predefined pattern. We'll hit add, and then Palo has 3 predefined patterns already created for us: credit card numbers, social security numbers, and social security numbers without dashes. So this creates a pattern that'll actually just match on any piece of traffic that looks like a credit card number would look, or looks like a social security number would look, based on basically regular expressions. And then from there, we can go down and actually configure our security profiles. Most of these you're going to leave default, but data filtering is the one we have to actually create. So if we click on data filtering, we're going to click add. And then here we'll call this ssn/cc. And then we add that data pattern we defined earlier. Just a little bit beforehand. And you see that data pattern there, and then we can set an alert threshold and a block threshold. I believe that 0 means that it doesn't trigger. So if you leave the alert threshold at 0, it'll never trigger an alert. If you leave the block threshold at 0, I believe it will never block. Is that correct, Mike? I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, so if you like set the alert threshold to 1, it'll trigger whenever it sees 1 social security number. And then typically you want to set the block threshold a little bit higher. But if you're in a competition, you might not necessarily care that much. You're not going to see a whole lot of social security looking traffic coming around that's not actually social security numbers. I'm going to set this to 5. Even set and then you want to set the log severity. Usually set this a little bit higher. Set it like a high or critical. And then that's our data filtering stuff figured out. And then basically we're just going to create one big security profile group based on like the most aggressive security profiles we can get. So I'm going to call this security group. Take our antivirus profile as default, and Spyro as strict, vulnerability protection as strict, and then we'll leave URL filtering and file blocking. URL filtering is just like URL filtering, and then file blocking will block different types of files. I don't know if there's necessarily a huge use for that if you're in like competition, because you're probably going to be downloading executables as well as the red team. So better to just use the actual vulnerability protection part. And then wildfire analysis, we're not going to do that either. So that actually utilizes Palo's like cloud, like malware detonation stuff, and We don't want to mess with that. So there's a little bit of a difference between default and strict profiles. Basically, what it comes down to is how aggressive the actual security profile is with, like, I want to cut off this connection, or rather than just logging it. So like a default security profile would just say, oh, I saw this bad looking stuff, I put it in the logs, but I didn't actually block the traffic, I just let it go. Whereas strict will actually just do a lot more resetting the connection and cutting it off right in the middle. So now that we've got that security profile group created, now we need to go back to all of our policies. We need to add to each allow rule the security profile group. Basically, the way that the security profiles work is that whenever you're allowing traffic through on a rule, it will go through some additional scrutiny with the security profiles that will actually like dig into the actual stuff inside. It's under actions, you're going to set profile type to group. And group profile to security group. You want to do that for all of your allow rules. Of course, like the nice thing about if you are able to get the actual security profile group set up before you actually do your firewall rules, if you do those at the same time as you're setting those up. And then you can also set your interzone default. If you're setting that to allow at the beginning, you can set that up with you can configure a security policy group associated with that rule as well, which will cover all like miscellaneous traffic that comes through. So that's a good way to like sort of start blocking that stuff really quickly if you have your definitions and everything already downloaded. Which you might not necessarily have, but if you do, it's a good way to go. Finally, we do our outbound stuff. And we can commit this. Any questions on security profiles? Like adding them, you could script it, but other than that, no. Yeah. If you had your stuff set up, if you have your group set up beforehand, you could do that as your rules. Okay, so now that that's done, we can do a little bit more testing. Log back in. Okay. Now, if you remember before we reset the firewall rule for the Windows 2008 system back to allowing all SMB traffic. So if you go under the monitor tab up at the top here, and then over here under threat, this will show all of the stuff that gets triggered by our zone security profiles. I'll show up right here. So now if we try to do return over here again, we'll see it gets an error connection reset back here. So that's the Palo cutting off connection. Now if we refresh this, we see vulnerability, Microsoft Windows SMB remote code execution vulnerability. You see it's very critical, and the action I took is it reset the connection. So that's really good. We can also do some other stuff. I probably won't run through it because we don't have a ton of time left, but if you look over in the lab, see this test rules link, we've got some stuff. So just some like laying out command by command, how you like load up smiley face VSFTPD exploit, and if you want to run that up into the getting system, that'll also get caught by the Palo and reset the connection. And then there's also psexec, which the Palo actually won't block the actual psexec part, but it will catch if it sees like Metasploit traffic going back. It will actually catch that part. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show the zoom. So we use the like SMB scanner. So this is going to create sort of like a low level alert, but it won't actually reset the connection. So we can see how we can like modify our security profiles to actually like detect this stuff, or on top of detecting this stuff, actually going in and actually blocking it as well if we want to. I was originally going to do this with psexec, but I couldn't actually get it to trigger again like he was able to before. But I don't know. So we do SMB. So I was working before. Oh, I misspelled it. There we go. So now we see 3 shares there. And then under our threat log here, we'll see that come up with net rshare enum access. And that's just an informational alert. But say we see something like this, we want to actually like cut off the connections when it's trying to do this sort of thing, just so we're like a little bit more stealthy or something like that. We can go back under our objects, and then under vulnerability protection, we can select strict and clone this default policy. We can't actually edit the policy itself because it's like a part of Palo, and no one actually like edit it, which is good because if you screw something up, you always have that backup. So we'll leave this strict one, and then under the exceptions tab, I'll look for share enum. And you have to click this little checkbox down here that says show all signatures. So see this here, show net rshare enum access. You have to check this little box on the left that says enable. So you're enabling this exception to like the default policy. And then under action, you can change the action. We're going to change this action from default alert to reset both. So now whenever someone tries to like enumerate all the SMB shares we have on our Windows systems, they'll just get reset, the connection will just get reset right away. But then we also have to add this to our security profile group because it's still using that old default one, default strict one. So down here, change this to strict 1. Hit OK, and we can commit that. And since we're using that profile group, we don't have to go through every single file of the rule and change that security profile. So that's a little bit faster. that's finished. If you try to run the scan again, see it gets cut off right away, so you don't actually get to any of the shows. Pretty nice. Go back to Eternal Blue. Yeah. Actually, I could probably do the reset to PD one. Okay. So now another thing you can do, yeah.
So during Alto traffic, do you have any an hour and traffic section 5 is that
Yeah, yeah. Right. If you have time to do actually do that, obviously. You might be busy with other things, but if you have time to actually be monitoring stuff, that's a good thing to be doing. It's looking through that threat traffic, seeing what looks malicious, what isn't being blocked, and then adding that to your stuff that's being blocked. It's a good idea. So now if we go back under vulnerability protection, I'm going to show you one more thing. So another option we have instead of just resetting the connection is we can actually like block an IP address for a certain amount of time. So depending on the competition, you may or may not be allowed to do this. I think for mocks we've settled on like you can block stuff for like 2 minutes and that's it. So if you look under here, we'll see there's a bunch of different rules with different severities. So we're going to look at simple server critical. So this is stuff that's being sent to your actual servers, and that has like a critical level of badness. Whatever. So it's currently set to reset both. So if we click on this rule here, open up this little dialog, and we can change the action from reset both to block IP. And we set the duration here to 120 seconds. Hit OK. OK again. And close. Head back to monitor. And then we'll try running this smiley face backdoor exploit. Speed slow. There we go. So yeah, this is just hanging now. But here we see that it's the Palo caught the smiley face backdoor exploit, and then over on the right, we see the action was block IP. And I think there's somewhere you can look for. I'll actually make this up for you. There should be a place where you can actually look at the block IP. It should be just under here. Let's see it there. This is supposed to be under here somewhere, but it's not. Oops. Let's see. Anyway, now we should, like, this whole thing should be, like, the whole IP should be blocked from doing anything interactive with any of our systems. So we can try to go back over here and, like, curl 10.0.1.10. Oh, we can still do that. That's interesting. Oh, shoot. That file system. Yeah. If I blocked the wrong IP address. Okay. Now I did. So that didn't work as well as I thought it would. Anybody have any questions on, like, modifying your security profiles and things like that? Yeah.
So in the competition, there's a bunch of logs involved. So do you sort those by IP? So to speak,
Yeah, you can. So if you, like, see here up the top, there's a little filter thing up here. If you, like, go through your logs and click on a specific source address, it'll show up in that filter up top. It'll just automatically populate that for you, and then just hit enter inside there. And then all of my logs match it, unfortunately. I'll put this one instead. There we go. Now we filter out just the ones just to that Debian system instead of to all the systems. This is also really good for, like, creating intrusion reports, so you can actually, like, see here they exploited it with this. They use this exploit at this time for this system, so you have a lot of information that you can leverage. Other than that, that's all we have for today. Next week's spring break, so there's going to be no meeting. But the week after that, I believe we're doing Splunk and Sysmon with Cody and Nick. So that should be interesting. Thanks for coming.